Lizzie was built in the Philippines. From the outside, she bears a strong resemblance to the popular Pacific Seacraft 40 that was built here in the United States. But her stick-built teak interior layout is completely different. It took 3 days, 2 planes, 1 bus, and a water taxi to get to Lizzie. It was time to see if expectations match with reality. I'm about to climb aboard for the first time and see what she looks like. Well, it appears this step is a little wider than I'm quite comfortable with, so I'm going to try adjusting the lines a little bit and pull her back in a little bit closer. Looks like we can probably adjust this line on the starboard side. I rolled up the back of the cockpit enclosure and stepped aboard for my initial inspection. As was to be expected, the brightwork is definitely in need of some attention. Well, pleasantly surprised to find 20-pound propane bottles on board. It's nice to see, and they are aluminum, although they will have to be recertified, I'm sure. The starboard side lid, the handle has pulled out, making it a little trickier to open. I'm going to have to get something to wedge in there because this handle has pulled out. But yeah, pleasantly surprised. This would be where the emergency tiller would go. We'll have to locate that. Let's take a quick look in the lazarette, even though the rain has started. And there's the lazarette. This piece lifts out. We'll get back to that tomorrow. There's a 5-inch compass mounted on the binnacle. It has a cover. Unfortunately, though, it has lost a portion of its mineral oil and is going to need to be serviced. There's a very deep, very large cockpit locker. The cabin top on either side of the companionway features winches, and it appears that most of the mainsail control lines have been led back to the cabin top. Meaning the halyards and the reef lines, it appears. Yeah, this is a first look down Lizzie's side decks here. Noisy truck on the bridge. Not going to pull the covers off because it's going to start raining here pretty much any moment. But I wanted to take a look and see what things look like under the covers. Lizzie's decks are showing signs of age and are deeply ridged. There are many missing bungs, some missing bedding between the planks, and one plank on the starboard forward bow has lifted. There's a very capable 1200-watt Lofron's windlass mounted up on the bow, but for the life of me I couldn't find any control switches anywhere on the bow. Finally, a day later, when I was digging around down below decks, I found a homemade up and down rocker switch built into a homemade wooden box with a long wire lead on it. I can only assume that the previous owner must have led that piece up through a hatch or back to the cockpit to use when he wanted to control the windlass. It was an odd situation. The boat cover is a study of contrast. The forward section is in excellent condition and appears to be fairly new. The rear portion, which runs from the mast aft, is on its last legs and is in need of replacement. For unknown reasons, the mast radar dome has been removed and is stored down below deck. The main sheet and blocks are missing, so the boom has been tied off to the hard bimini top. The Traveler and main sheet car are located on the aft cockpit coaming. I looked around to try and find the main sheet and blocks, but they were nowhere to be seen. And here comes the rain. Well, I haven't gotten out of the cockpit, have I? The next morning dawned sunny, humid, and hot. But surprisingly, more rain was forecast. I think I'll take a peek down below now. As was typical for most boats built in the Far East, Lizzie has what we refer to as a stick-built interior. There is no fiberglass liner. The entire interior is constructed out of solid pieces of teak. Coming down the companionway to port is the galley. There's a 3-burner stove with oven, double sinks, an icebox with refrigeration, and lots of cabinets for storage. On the starboard side, across from the galley, is a quarter stateroom. Well, solve the mystery of where the electrical panel is. It is here in the quarter berth, actually. This is a little different than the drawing we were looking at. And then next to it, we have a series of lockers, which we already knew about the lockers, but confirming it now. Going all the way back, and I removed the vinyl quarter berth cushions so I could take a look at the storage area underneath the quarter berth. This little door that we were wondering about, I was right. That's access to the back of the engine instrument panel, and that's all it's access to. There's quite a bit of wasted space in there. There's the EPIRB. And what do we have here? We have a locker to nothing. It's interesting. This would be the aft side of the hanging locker, which is behind the quarter stateroom door. Right there. That's interesting. Well, the varnished teak down below is definitely dark. It's still difficult to tell right now because of the canvas cover being on the outside. I'm just trying to turn on the light here, see if that makes any difference. The varnish is in reasonably good shape, but it is definitely dark compared to what's on Starwhite. Here's the engine. Here's this little bitty table. It's got a nice base to it, but it is definitely tiny. Midship, on the port side, is a U-shaped settee with a very tiny table. The upholstery has all been removed from the boat for cleaning and storage. Forward of the settee, on the port side, is the head, which also features a stall shower. Forward of the head is the master stateroom. It has a offset Pullman-style berth, very similar to the CREALOCK 37 layout. Lizzie's engine is located midship, underneath the settee. There's very good access to it from both the front, top, and the back side. Behind the companionway ladder and underneath the cockpit is an area that I nicknamed the garage. It contains the hot water tank and a whole bunch of space, which was filled up with pieces of aluminum extrusion, wood, hoses, all kinds of materials. So, what are the issues and challenges aboard Lizzie? There are many. For me, the number one issue with Lizzie is insect damage. There's termite damage to the cabin sole, and there is ongoing damage from powder post beetles throughout the boat. Unfortunately, these things can be very, very difficult to eradicate, and with this boat having a complete wood constructed interior, this is a big issue. Number two is the electrical system. The wiring in the boat is all older, stranded copper. There are very messy runs, and it's not well supported. Most of the electronics on the boat are not functional. Additionally, the solar panel and the wind generator are not functional. The house battery bank is in need of replacement, and the crudely constructed windlass control is a perfect example of the state of most of the wiring throughout the boat. Lizzie's teak decks are showing the signs of age and are deeply ridged. They're in need of sanding, some rebedding, and replacement of missing bungs. There is a plank that is lifting on the forward starboard bow that is going to need to be addressed. Lizzie has significant deck leaks coming through chain plates and deck hardware that needs to be rebedded. This is leading to water staining in a lot of places and mold and mildew growth. Additionally, it fills the bilges, and there are no automatic bilge pump switches on Lizzie at this time. The galley stove is in need of replacement. The oven door is broken, and only one of the 3 burners on the top is functional. Additionally, it was somewhat frightening when I took a look at the propane supply hose and found it was a piece of PVC hose that was attached to the bottle and the stove with a couple of hose clamps. Most of the hoses on Lizzie are older, yellowed, brittle PVC and are in need of replacement. Additionally, over the years, most of the engine hoses have been incorrectly replaced with PVC. Replacing the missing main sheet blocks will not be an inexpensive item. Additionally, all of the running rigging on Lizzie is in need of replacement. Lizzie started life in Southeast Asia. She's crossed the South China Sea, the Indian Ocean, sailed up the Suez Canal, across the Mediterranean and Atlantic Oceans, and is now resting in Rio Dulce. She represents an opportunity for the right person, but she's more of a project than I'm interested at this point in my life. Now, if I were only 20 years younger,